It all started with a simple question. What if I drilled a hole in my crankbait's lip? It sounds almost reckless, right? But sometimes, the most interesting discoveries begin with a question that seems a little out there. Most anglers would call that crazy, maybe even a little foolish. But I had a hunch. A single, well-placed hole could unlock a new underwater action. What if that tiny change could make a lure do something fish had never seen before? I've spent years tinkering with lures, always searching for that irresistible movement. Every lure on my bench tells a story of trial and error, of late nights and early mornings spent chasing the perfect action. The crankbait lip is the engine of the lure, dictating its every move. It's the part that slices through the water, setting the rhythm and the dance. So, if you want to change the action, you start with the engine. It's like tuning a car. Small tweaks can lead to big changes in performance. The idea was to disrupt the water flow in a controlled way, introduce a little chaos. Not enough to ruin the lure, but just enough to make it unpredictable, to give it a spark of life. I remember drilling that first hole, watching the plastic shavings spiral away. My heart was pounding. Would this ruin the lure, or would it create something special? It looked insignificant, just a tiny hole, but it was a gateway to something new. Sometimes, the smallest changes open the biggest doors. The change wasn't subtle, it was dramatic. The lure darted and danced in ways I'd never seen before, catching the light and the current in unpredictable ways. The lure came alive with an erratic energy I'd never seen before. It was as if it had a mind of its own, zigzagging and pulsing through the water. This isn't just about drilling holes. It's about curiosity and the thrill of experimentation. It's about pushing boundaries and asking, what if? We're going to break down this experiment step by step, how I built the lures, the math, and what happened in the water. I'll show you the process, the thinking, and the surprises along the way. The results? They surprise me in the best way. Sometimes, the fish react in ways you never expect, and that's when you know you're onto something. This experiment made me see my tackle box as a world of untapped potential. Every lure, every piece of plastic, suddenly seemed full of possibilities. So grab your curiosity and let's get started. You don't need to be an expert, just willing to try something new. Sometimes, the wildest ideas lead to the biggest breakthroughs. Innovation is born from a willingness to experiment, to fail, and to try again. Let's see what a tiny change can really do. We'll compare, test, and push the limits of what a crankbait can be. I'll show you how a single hole can transform a lure's personality. It's not just about catching more fish. It's about understanding how small tweaks can make a huge impact. Get ready to rethink everything you know about crankbaits. The world of fishing is full of surprises, and sometimes all it takes is a little curiosity to unlock them. This is a story of a small modification with massive results. Let's dive in. The journey starts now. Who knows what we'll discover together? An idea is born. The idea didn't hit me all at once. It grew slowly, taking shape over countless quiet mornings by the water as I watched and wondered. I'd cast my crankbait and watch it swim a predictable path, gliding smoothly and steadily through the water. Always the same, never surprising. But baits are predators, drawn to the unpredictable, the erratic. They're hunters, always alert for something that stands out, something that moves like real prey. My lure was too perfect, too clean, almost artificial in its precision. It didn't have that wild panic movement that triggers a bait's instincts. That's when I started thinking about fluid dynamics, how a golf ball's dimples create turbulence, helping it fly farther and truer through the air. What if I could create a similar point of turbulence on the crankbait lip? Could I use science to make my lure less predictable, more alive? A hole in the lip could force water through, creating chaos and disrupting the smooth flow, just like those dimples do for a golf ball. My theory was simple. A jet of water to the hole would disrupt the lure's stability, making it hunt and dart unpredictably, just like a panicked baitfish trying to escape. That hunting action is a holy grail for crankbaits. It's what triggers those aggressive, heart-pounding strikes from big bass. So I decided to test it. I lined up identical lures, each with a different size hole in the lip. One would be the control, untouched and perfect, and the others would have one small hole, one medium, and one large, each a tiny experiment in chaos. Every other variable would stay the same. Same hooks, same paint, same line, same rod. That way, any difference in action would be from the hole alone, nothing else. It was simple, honest garage science at its best. No fancy lab, just curiosity and a workbench. My tackle box was about to become a laboratory, filled with possibilities and potential breakthroughs. Sometimes, the best ideas come from asking, what if? Now, it was time to find out if a simple question could change everything. Building the perfect blank slate. For a fair test, I needed 4 identical crankbaits, clones from the same mold. I started with high-quality, unpainted coffin bill blanks. Each lure was weighed to the 100th of an ounce, ensuring perfect consistency. I assembled and glued the halves, clamped them, and let them cure for 24 hours. Seams were sanded smooth to avoid any unwanted turbulence. A simple bone white paint job made the action easy to observe. Identical split rings and treble hooks finished the build. 4 perfect clones ready for the experiment. Consistency was everything, no room for error. Now, it was time for the drill press. The real test was about to begin. Why holes should change everything. Why would a hole in the lip change a lure's action? It's all about pressure and flow. The lip creates a pressure difference. High below, low above, making the lure wobble and dive. A solid lip means stable, predictable action. Add a hole and high-pressure water escapes, creating turbulence and chaos. This turbulence disrupts the lure's path, causing it to dart and hunt. The size of the hole controls the intensity. Small for subtle, large for wild. But is there a sweet spot, or does a bigger hole ruin the action? That's what I set out to discover. Time to test the theory. Sizing up the experiment. I needed a logical way to size the holes, so I based them on the lip surface area. The lip was about 314 square millimeters. Easy math. I chose holes representing 1%, 2%, and 4% of that area. For the small vent, 2 millimeters diameter, 1%. Medium vent, 3 millimeters diameter, 2%. Large vent, 4 millimeters diameter, 4%. The control had no hole. This progression would show how each size affected the action. Each step up meant a significant increase in water flow. The numbers were set. Holes were drilled with precision. Now, the moment of truth. How would each lure perform? Let's find out. The unaltered standard. First up, the control lure. No hole, just pure crankbait. It swam with a tight, steady wobble, tracking perfectly straight. No deviation, no hunting, just reliable rhythmic action. Fast or slow, it stayed true. This is a classic crankbait performance, effective but predictable. It's caught millions of bass, but lacks that spark of chaos. After several casts, I knew exactly what normal looked like. The control was the baseline, solid but safe. Now, it was time to introduce some anarchy. The small vent lure was next. Let's see what a tiny hole can do. The small vent's subtle dance. The small vent, with its 2 millimeters hole, looked almost identical to control. I cast and retrieved. At first, it felt the same. Then, suddenly, a quick dart to the side. Subtle but real. The lure would swim straight, then veer unpredictably before correcting itself. It was a nervous tick, a hint of panic. The action was consistent in its inconsistency. Every few feet, a quick hunt. It added personality, making the lure seem spooked. The 1% vent didn't overpower the action. It enhanced it. This was a lure with a secret. Just enough chaos to entice a predator. Sometimes, a whisper is more powerful than a shout. The small vent was a definite success. But what about the medium vent? If a small hole worked, what would a bigger one do? Time to find out. The experiment was heating up. The medium vent's wild side. The medium vent, with its 3 millimeters hole, was a game changer. From the first crank, the action was wild, erratic, unpredictable. The lure darted left and right, covering more water and mimicking a panic bait fish. The hunt was aggressive, not just a tick, but a full-blown flight. Fast retrieves made it go berserk. Slow retrieves gave a wide, gliding hunt. The only downside, it didn't dive as deep, losing about a foot compared to the others. But for shallow water, this was perfect. The medium vent was a sweet spot, wild, versatile, and deadly. It was everything I'd hoped for. But there was one more test, the large vent. Would more chaos be better, or too much? Only one way to know. The final test was on. Which lure hunts best? The large vent, with its 4mm hole, was supposed to be the ultimate chaos machine, a lure designed to shake things up and trigger aggressive strikes from even the wariest fish. I had high hopes, thinking this bold modification would create wild, unpredictable action underwater. But as soon as I started my first retrieve, I could tell something was off. The anticipation faded quickly as I watched the lure's lackluster movement. The signature wobble was completely gone, replaced by a dull, lifeless drag, almost like pulling a heavy bucket through the water instead of a lively bait fish. The oversized hole had killed the pressure difference that gives crankbaits their action. Instead of creating turbulence, it just let water pass through, robbing the lure of its magic. Instead of darting and hunting, the lure just rolled and flopped around, looking unnatural and unconvincing to any fish nearby. It was a total failure. Clear proof that sometimes more isn't always better. Pushing things too far can ruin a good thing. After running all 4 lures to the same test, the winner stood out immediately. The medium vent. It wasn't the flashiest, but it had the right balance. The control lure swam in a straight, predictable line, reliable, but honestly, a little boring. It did have that spark that triggers reaction bites. The small vent was even more subtle, barely wobbling at all. It might work on pressured fish, but it lacked excitement. And as we saw, the large vent was a complete dud. Too much of a good thing and the action was lost. The medium vent, though, hit the sweet spot. It darted and wobbled erratically, creating just enough chaos to draw strikes, but stayed balanced and believable. This experiment really proved that even a tiny change, a millimeter here or there, can make a massive difference in how a lure performs. You don't need a fancy lab or expensive equipment to discover these things. All it takes is curiosity, a willingness to tinker, and a bit of patience. So next time you open your tackle box, remember, it's not just a box of lures. It's a world of possibilities waiting to be explored. Don't be afraid to experiment, swap parts, or try something new. Sometimes, the best discoveries come from a little trial and error. One small tweak could be the difference between a slow day and the catch of a lifetime. That's the magic of fishing innovation. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some bass to catch, and maybe a few more experiments to try before the sun goes down.